Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and we have a short show for you tonight, but a really good one at that. We're going to be talking about a lot of updates from some articles that we've been covering on previous shows, talk about a lot of news going on with Apple and potentially a new iPhone release coming up soon, and then teleportation. So stick around, stay tuned to find out, and we are going to get right into this episode of Tech Talk Nation. So, as usual, we are joined by two very great contributors on the show. We have Matt Grislow and Ryan Eastman with us once again. How are you guys?
Ready to draft a fantasy football team here after the podcast.
There you go. That's why we got to be short today. Got to do that fantasy football draft, right?
Yeah, they start tomorrow.
Good point. Oh yeah.
I'll do that.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow's Thursday. Huh.
I'll be honest. I've forgotten football existed for quite a while.
It's Bucks Cowboys.
Okay.
That's the first game of the season. I don't know where they're playing, but it's a Thursday night game. So season opens tomorrow. QB1 by the end of the season better be Justin Fields. Nagy, I'm talking to you. I know you watch this show.
Yeah, just like Elon Musk, two very big fans of our show.
Oh, Elon Musk. We all know Elon Musk watches the show.
I mean,
big fan.
Big fan. There we go.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Definitely.
Justin Fields. More like Justin should be moved to Soldier Field for how bad he is at football. Am I right?
Anyway. I mean, they play at Soldier Field. And if he played at Soldier Field, that means he'd be starting, which he's not.
Oh, man, I'm stupid. I thought Soldier Field was the Cubs Stadium.
No, that's Wrigley
Not
Field.
even close.
That's Wrigley? Oh, man.
I hate to say this, but stay in your lane, kid. Stay in your lane.
Honestly, football should be my lane. I played it longer than any of you, but still.
I was too brittle to be a football player. So
At least you didn't say that the Bears have played there for over 100 years. Someone posted some stupid TikTok like a month or two ago and was like, "Oh, Soldier Field's got 100 years of football of Bears football." No, they really have like 30 or 40. They started playing at Wrigley Field.
I mean, let's be honest. Even right now, they barely qualify as a football team.
Their O-line is shaky, but yeah.
Well, this is actually
having fun throwing shots at Bears fans.
This is actually a really good transition.
Coming from a guy who didn't even know that they played at Soldier Field.
Oh man, listen, I'm a Packers fan. I don't have to care about the Bears. They haven't been a threat in decades.
All right, so
you're about to lose your quarterback after the season. So,
you're about to lose your rights to the show, saying malarkey like that on the show. So joking around.
President of the United States.
Oof. He has popularized that word once again. But anyway, speaking of a Chicago company here, the first update we have for you is actually a really good one of our features from a couple shows ago about the McDonald's machines, the McDonald's ice cream machines, and this title is phenomenal. Good job, Gizmodo. But basically, long story short, the FTC is now getting involved with this issue with the McDonald's ice cream machines. In case you aren't familiar with what we covered on the last show, basically what wound up happening is the machines are notoriously broken, they're hard to repair, and the manufacturer actually prevents the end user from trying to repair the machine. So now the FTC has sent out letters to some McDonald's franchisees to basically be like, hey, what's going on? How does McDonald's procure their vendors? How do they do stuff like this? And basically is trying to gather information on what's happening here. So we'll see if this actually materializes.
That is
big fan of this. Big fan of this.
That is meme magic in action right there.
Right.
I mean, yeah, the title's funny, but also the story is interesting. We covered it a while ago, a few months ago. But and I didn't realize this. I suppose Biden, the U.S. president, um, in July, a month or two ago, started this initiative, essentially for the right to repair, not only for electronics, in like for consumer electronics, but in other industries too. And this is part of it. Um, this is I think a very good example of not Apple, geez, of McDonald's and the company that sells these machines, kind of
Taylor.
monopolizing what Taylor, monopolizing the right to repair and the ability to repair and everything that you should be able to do servicing your own machine. So I'm excited to see where this goes because I didn't expect this to happen. The FTC would finally step up to the plate and take this on. But I'm a big fan of this, and especially I think it's interesting because, or there's more to it because not just are they not allowing people to repair their stuff, but after a company who made and started selling their devices to tell the franchise owners about their machines, after they made this machine, the company started going after them too.
And
it's sort of like a I don't know what the word is, but yeah, I really am interested in this, and I'm looking forward to see where this goes.
definitely. And the other interesting bit in this article too is that Kitsch device that we were talking about. They were the people who kind of kicked this off. They sued, um, I believe Taylor. Yeah, they accused Taylor of infringing on McDonald's franchisees' rights to repair and sued Taylor. And then the FTC was like, wait a second. And they kind of got the ball rolling on this. So props to them on that. Um, but it's
I mean,
interesting.
oh yeah, and it's been a meme for almost a decade now, probably. It's been a meme for a while that the McDonald's McFlurry machine is always broken.
Right.
Uh, I'm less confident that this really bolsters right to repair, mostly because it's McDonald's who's benefiting from this. It's not some random individual,
Well,
and
it's the
the way
franchisees are.
franchising works, yeah. For example, I used to know someone who owned a Dairy Queen. You can't get that ice cream machine unless you own a Dairy Queen. And I know this specifically because there was some millionaire or something who was trying to get one and just couldn't.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, and
So like I'm less confident that this actually bolsters it because it feels like it might get kind of selectively bolstered in McDonald's favor because they're McDonald's.
I guess the
We'll
benefit,
see.
right. I guess the benefit I see here, though, is for those franchisees who have once they're McDonald's franchise owner, they have the right to purchase said machine, and then they have the right to have a service contract with it
Sure.
or repair it. The one thing that I
It's
could
not impossible that it helps.
Right. The one thing I could see being a problem, though, is the biggest counterpoint that I bet Taylor would have in this lawsuit is about like brand consistency. So like the only way to fix the machine and the authorized way to get the same product out of it is by one of their like authorized people using their authorized parts, doing their authorized methods. And I understand that completely because you want to have a consistent product across like all your stores and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't know. What do you think on that?
I mean, for
Ryan?
like if it was a major replacement of something, I imagine they would want like one of their specialists out there. But if a fuse blows and you have to buy your fuse from them and they get mad if you don't put like the perfect fuse that they produce back in,
Good point.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, definitely.
But like I imagine if the pump blows, you might want to call the people who made it and be like, "Hey, the pump blew. We need to replace this."
Right. Like I can't do this myself.
Yeah, for like the really big and expensive pieces, I imagine you still would go through the normal people.
Right. Like let's say one of those hoses in the front breaks. Like you could hose clamp a thing in place, but like
Yeah.
not one of the pumps. But
Hmm.
I agree. I agree. Well, in the interest of time here, might as well move on to our next update here. If you watched one of our episodes, probably a month ago at this point, you would learn about the artificial intelligence that designed products and filed AI, or excuse me, filed patents for its design. Well, we have an update on that too. According to the US judge, only, quote, natural persons can be recognized as patent inventors, not AIs. Basically, this article goes into detail about how the US had a court ruling that said that like a circuit court ruling that says only a natural person can create a patentable item. The researchers who were doing this experiment are now taking that a step further and want to go to the appeals court with that, to see what goes on there. The other kind of breaking news is Australia's Commissioner of Patents, Paula Adamson, has announced she will appeal the court decision down under because she, in the in Australia, they basically said, hey, it's okay to do this. And that was kind of big news for them. And the patent officer is like, no, this shouldn't be a thing. So you're kind of getting this catch here, which is really interesting. So I don't know.
I mean, I kind of agree with it. Like, a person's name has got to be on the pad. I understand. Like, you can obviously, I think you could probably still assist your design using AI and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably use AI to, help you through all the design stages. But I imagine, like, when you file, you're gonna do it under your name and not the AI's. And I'm willing to bet that meets all legal requirements or whatever.
Right. The AI is just the thing that spits ideas at you, and then like you just have to
Yeah.
do the legwork to actually apply it. Like the AI just can't go like nothing to patent. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
I still hold my same opinion from however long ago it was. I think it's absurd that you can, or that people believe that AI can hold a patent under even under today's laws, standards, practices,
well, yeah.
whatever you want to call them.
Right.
You
It
can't.
just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, again, and I'll use this reference or this example again. If you use a software to optimize what you're doing or to test out what you're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean that that software now holds partial, ownership credit for whatever comes out of it. It's just it's just a tool. It's a
Right.
tool.
Right.
AI
Yeah, sure.
and AI is the same way.
And like,
AI is a tool.
yeah, how do you license a patent to someone? How do you license a patent that's generated under an AI
Right.
to someone?
How
Like,
can
you can't, the AI can't have a bank account.
the
The
AI
AI
can't
can't have its
license?
name on
Yeah.
a corporation. So that patent has to be under the name of a person or corporation or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because like otherwise it's functionally useless. You can't put an AI's name on a deposition of a court case. It can't be like, I don't know, AI C1529 versus the people of Georgia or something if someone violated their patent.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have to have you have to have a party that's actually what's the word? Offended, a party that's wronged. There's a legal term for this. It's a really specific one.
There's a plaintiff and
Injured, a party
a
that's
defendant.
injured.
Plaintiff and
I
defendant.
think injured might work there.
You're
You have to
looking
have a
for very
party.
specific law.
I am
jargon,
looking
by
for
the way.
legal terms. It's
There
been
you
a
go.
listen. I haven't looked. Anyway. The
Anyway.
point is, there's a special word for it. You have to have a party. I think injury might be the word.
Mhm.
And you can't really show that an AI was injured by something like in a financial sense or anything because the AI doesn't have
Right.
money or rights.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you bring up a good point though. The point or the case in which you would go to court over a patent or something. I mean, how are you really gonna sue an AI, a code, Like that's just not you can't do it. And then
Yeah.
what? You're gonna sue the code for damages? Like what you think the code just gonna spit out Bitcoin? No, that's not how that works.
Yeah,
Right.
and the code can't sue you for damages either if you violate its patent.
Yeah, I mean it really is absurd, especially when you think about these sort of like, I don't think they're very specific examples. I mean, these are pretty general, generic. I would say very applicable situations.
Yeah.
Right.
And even to that point, like, what is an AI going to invoke the Fifth Amendment and not take the stand? I mean, like, it's just absurd. It's
Right.
just absurd.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
Well,
where it interacts with the real world, things kind of explode for now.
so
Or, I mean, if they're driving cars, they hit police vehicles and first responder vehicles, or points in the road.
yeah.
But
right.
that's autopilot.
There you
And
go.
don't worry, that'll have its day in court probably within the next 3-4 years.
Guaranteed.
Oh yeah, well, what was it? Was it FCC or whatever the commission is on cars? That was last week or 2
NTSB,
weeks ago.
I think. NTSB, the National Highway
Yes.
Transportation or National
Oh.
Transportation Safety
Yeah,
Board, I think. Something.
Yeah.
Too many government organizations.
I know,
now.
right? Definitely. Well,
But I mean, they're not taking autopilot to court. They're taking Tesla to court.
Yeah.
You can't take an AI to
Obviously.
court.
Yeah. Obviously, they're taking Tesla to court.
right. Definitely.
The way it should be.
Well, in another story about AI that we've covered on this, we're going to talk once again about Apple's controversial child safety CSAM scanning thing, and they delayed their launch. We talked a while back about how Apple is listening to its users a little more in what they're doing and kind of making decisions that, in our opinions, are a little better than just doing their own thing and doing their own design. Well, they put this the child sexual abuse scanning AI that they created on hold now. It was supposed to be part of the initial iOS 15 relaunch or launch, but now it isn't. And Apple's listening to people being like, "Hey, this is a terrible idea." So I find it interesting.
My opinion
I
hasn't
don't know.
changed.
Nothing's changed. They're not showing any indication that they are going to stop pushing this piece of software
Good
out
point.
This is
to
a pretty
in
common.
iOS.
I didn't leave that
This is a
out.
pretty
It said
common
they
tactic.
still will, but
Yeah,
it's a
this
common
does
tactic.
not indicate any sort of course correction for Apple. They're just trying to, I'm sure, work with, I don't know, their lawyers, work with their teams that are coding this to really make sure that there's solid evidence or solid proof or solid ways of showing that everything's very secure, and to quell the concerns that people have. I don't think they're going to go away, even given more time to perfect this, or to work on it with any sort of legal team. It's not going to quell concerns. I think the more of this is out there that this is going to be happening, the more outrage it's going to get. It might die a little bit over time, but that's never going to go away.
Sure. And I don't even think that they're trying to like perfect this in the background for the most part. I honestly think they're waiting for that initial backlash to die down. And then once that's died down, they're going to try and reintroduce it again.
do you
Like it's a common tactic that I think a lot of like social media, a lot of places like that end up using.
Good
Is
point.
basically they put out the initial statement, they generate the controversy, they act like they're delaying it so things quiet down, and then they kind of quietly put it back in later.
I was gonna.
I will make a correlated comment to that. This does come off the heels of a few different announcements that they are pulling different features from the software that they will be releasing. It seems if they're going to be coming out with the phone, or at least announcing the phone next week, the software would follow the week after, like 8 days later usually, I think, or something like that. To me, it could indicate that they're realizing some of these features, these big features they wanted to push, whether they were fun and exciting like the share play, or they were more meant for child protection like the CSAM search. I think they're realizing maybe that it's just not ready, and they don't want to put something out that's either not going to work well or doesn't work as they want it to.
Good point.
So,
Good
I
point.
mean,
sorry, Fitz, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no worries.
Just wanted to make that comment.
What I was going to bring up was, do you feel like this is just going to be one of those things where you're going to get iOS 15.2 dot whatever, and then in the like bottom of the footnotes or the release notes of that operating system, it's just going to be like, oh yeah, we introduced this again, like just completely
Yeah.
under the rug type thing.
I think, I don't know, not completely under the rug, but I think it'll, instead of there being a like flared announcement, it'll just be in the release notes.
Okay.
That would be my guess. I've been wrong in the past.
That could
Interesting.
happen.
I'll hedge my bets
I don't think
that way.
it'll. I don't think it'll be like a dot release. I don't know how they figure out what features make it a dot versus a dot release. But I don't think something like that, especially share play, would be in like a dot release. That would be like a 15.2.
Yeah, I think
maybe
generally...
just to give them some room for software bugs, which they have had in the last few major releases. Let's call it 15.
Yeah,
and
that's what I imagine their dot is for. Is probably for hot fixes, for bug fixes, for security fixes.
I think dot is a feature. Dot is security and bugs.
Yeah,
maybe security and bugs.
You know,
maybe,
I'll rein that back in. I'll say 15. I'll say 15.2.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, 15.1 or 2 is what I imagine, and I'm gonna guess it's just in the release notes, and they don't have another big announcement for it. That's my guess.
I could see it.
My opinion on the actual thing hasn't changed. I get why they're doing it, but I see too much like. I see just a wedge slowly growing there, where it's like, okay, so we did this for this, and now we're going to implement something else for another issue.
Yep.
And so on and so forth, and just get more obtrusive over time.
We're solving the world's problems, like that, according to Apple, but they're just intruding.
It's not solving the world's problems. It's not really solving problems as much as it's sort of like a protection, like a safeguard.
I mean,
I guess it's a problem. It is a problem, sure. But I guess in the sense of a problem, I think more like I can't take a picture from 1,000 yards away. Okay, solution: 1,000 times digital zoom. I can't send a message to the other side of the earth in 0.02 seconds. Okay, solution: HE. Like that's the type of solution I would think of, I guess. Like that's a solution. I think this is more of a safeguard. Although I mean, yes, technically speaking, I guess you could call it a solution. But I think calling that a solution would probably infuriate and embolden more people against this.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay, I could see that.
It actually, you know what? I have another theory. I bet you they are probably trying to work on a more robust media campaign.
Maybe. Ooh,
because
that's
it doesn't
a good
seem
point.
like they're gonna.
I mean, here's the thing, right?
And what else are they gonna do? Are they gonna do it really, shady and kind of fly by night type thing in the notes in a 0.2 update, or they're gonna come out with some big robust campaign either on its own or see this being a big feature at their streaming event. And maybe they just want to take it out for now so that they can more fully explain it next Tuesday. I don't know.
Either way, I get why they want to implement the feature, but it's still like, I can see how you can take this feature now and just expand it further into other things that would annoy me immensely. Like, I can see the push for fake news or something being the next avenue they go down. There's probably some
Um,
steps in between those two, to be honest. Because
Or
I
Facebook
can
already does
only,
that.
I mean, I can only, and I don't use it. I can only see it happening in their news app.
I could
I
see.
mean,
But
how
already,
else? How else are
here's
they
the
gonna
thing, right?
filter? I mean, like that's like saying,
Once
okay,
they're
we're gonna
expanding it
filter
into
out
your
Google. You know?
no, once they're expanding it into your messages, why not? Facebook already, if you try and link certain websites or certain articles, they won't let you if you use Facebook Messenger.
Sure, but that's their platform. We're talking about like an operating system that's using and has access to like different platforms. I don't think it's, and by
Sure.
access I mean you
Why
can download
wouldn't
them
you
on there.
that's their messenger app. Why wouldn't you consider iMessages basically the same? And
Oh,
that's what it's
in
doing
that
right
case,
now.
I mean potentially, yeah.
I could see.
I don't think that would, and maybe this is a little too cynical, I think is the right word.
Or a little too
I
hopeful
think
might be
it's
the right word.
I think that's a little too like much.
Okay.
I said this when we first started
Yeah,
talking
right
about
now.
this. Well, hold on. I said this when we were first talking about this. Apple, and this is part of a broader kind of initiative for child safety, not just for bad material that they could see, but trying to keep limiting kids' use of the iPad and the phones, and trying to be more education based, trying to give a better, I guess, image to technology for the youth, in a safe environment. And this is one of them. This is
They
one of
could have stopped
those.
at
This is
parental
one of those
controls,
features.
though.
But
Exactly.
this is not
Is that
this.
their
The goal of
problem?
this
Okay,
is not to
but do you
spin
know
this
how many?
out
Sure, but
into
do you know how many?
something bigger than this. I'm Ryan. In the interest of time, I'm not going to hash this argument with you again. We've had this.
Oh no,
We've
no,
had this before.
I got 3 seconds. Will somebody think of the children?
There you
So
go.
many controversial policies get pushed through that way and expanded from there. It's always a good ingress point.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. On that note, speaking of solving a problem that I guess exists, I'm not entirely sure. But driver's
I'm a consummate.
licenses will soon be coming to the iPhone and Apple Watch in 8 states, and those 8 states are Arizona, Georgia, Connecticut, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Oklahoma, and Utah. Rolling out with Arizona and Georgia first, but that's kind of interesting to see. But the point I want to talk about in a lot of stuff with this article is you can use this at the TSA at the airport. So you can use this in place of your physical ID at an airport.
This article was really poorly written because at the end they said you'll be able to use your digital ID at TSA without handing over your Apple device. What do you think you have to do to show your physical ID?
What do
You
you?
take your wrist and you put it on their scanner, I guess. I don't know.
You still have
I
to.
don't know.
You still have to present the device.
Oh
My
yeah,
point
still
my
have to
point
present something.
is the article was not written the best. I'm
Maybe they
not
think you
eloquently
just.
speaking at all on this podcast today, but it could have been better. I mean, it was
Yes.
just a stupid line. But to the point of the actual article, I think it's interesting. Again, this is sort of an interesting. I don't know about paradox, but two things kind of butting at each other. You have Apple trying to go as digital as possible, trying to do all kinds of mobile payment, trying to put student IDs in their phones, trying to put driver's licenses in phones, all kinds of credit cards, debit cards, all that. But they also sell and have a physical card.
Right.
So what's like? I don't understand that they have their feet in like two different ponds basically, and they haven't figured out which one they want to be in more. I understand there's a reason for both, and you can have both at the same time. It's just interesting that they're pushing so hard for digital wallets, and at the same time also pushing a physical card.
Why do I feel
Well, I
like
think
that's some sort of like SEC law or an FTC thing or some sort of like regulation that says you need to have card? I don't know though.
no
That's the
clue.
thing.
I
I
haven't looked
think
too much into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is. but again, I mean, you can use you can use a digital version of that
Right.
on your phone.
Right.
So I mean, I don't understand. I don't know why.
How does the Apple Card work? Do you like control what credit card it is from your phone, or is it its own credit card?
It's its own credit card
Yeah, it's its own thing.
Okay,
with
So,
then I have
its
no
own
clue.
sort of benefits, and
well,
I don't know them off the top of my
Well, in
head.
that
the
case, I
thing,
don't know, other than maybe they want to get into like the credit business as well.
who knows?
They do,
The
they
th-
do, just be through this card. But again, they could very well. Again, I'm not really well skilled in this area. To me, it seems like they could very easily just do a digital card. Um, I mean, I guess when you get a new card, you get a new card. It's not like, okay, I get an email with my card. Maybe that's because it's more secure to do it that way. Even though there's tons of mail fraud that exists. I'm trying to think of an example of a digital card, a rewards card. I don't really know.
think about
And maybe there are restrictions. Maybe there are restrictions. I don't know.
football
I just think it's
tickets.
very interesting that I just think it's interesting that they go in these two different directions at the same time.
Here's a good example. Think about the Ventra card in Chicago. To use any of the CTA or Metra stuff, you have a Ventra card. It's literally within an app on your phone. You don't have a physical thing. You could go up to a kiosk and get a physical thing if you really want to, but
Yeah.
in its base form, it's literally just on your phone. So
Huh.
I don't know. I guess that's kind of an example. But then again, that's
I
also
think,
just transit. It's not legitimate banking.
yeah, I think maybe that's the point. Maybe that's where the buck stops. Like as soon as you get into a payment system or a form of payment,
Hmm.
you can no longer just use or just send to your user a digital form of that
True.
payment.
Well, and the one point that I wanted to bring up here too that I found kind of interesting is it's used kind of, it says adding a license or ID will work much the same way as adding a debit or credit card to Apple Wallet, but Apple said it's rolling out few requirements for additional security. Users scan their ID, they will be asked to take a selfie, which will be provided to the issuing state for verification. As an additional security measure, users will also be asked to complete a series of facial and head movements during the setup process. So I guess it's verifying you in other ways as well, as opposed to just adding a card.
Yeah, I'm really curious how this is going to work. Um, I mean, to put it lightly, government programs suck. They just suck. They're bloated. They are slow. If you're me, they just deliver your packages to the wrong place and just say like screw off basically. So I don't know how this is going to work. If there's going to be like an Apple slash TSA team that works together to verify these people. I don't know how it's going to work
Right.
because you can't have an Apple employee. You can't have an Apple employee verifying government IDs. At the same time, I would not completely rely on the government to get this done just because of how bloated and slow the government is and how it runs.
Right. And
Maybe I'm not looking at this the right
no,
way.
I agree.
Ryan, I'm assuming you and I are probably in line here on how we're
Probably.
perceiving this.
Nothing ever rolls out well. I'm still like way back, kind of at like a different maxim, which is just if it exists, it could be hacked. And that's kind of where
Bingo.
I am still. Like,
It says it's
there's gotta be,
encrypted, but
sure, but there's go-between attacks. I don't know how they're doing everything. Like, there's a lot of other ways to get around that.
social
And
engineering,
Yeah,
all that stuff. So
yeah, and honestly, there's ways to get people's license numbers and all that way too.
right.
There's a lot of stuff you can use to get around it.
I mean, there's
I'm
other
s-
avenues currently you can do. You can
yeah,
use
for
to do
sure.
that.
Oh,
Right.
you can absolutely steal someone's identity other ways.
Definitely.
I'm just still uncomfortable with the idea of having like the purely digital ID.
Yeah, I'm actually, well, you have to have a physical ID to even get a digital ID, but I'm kind
Oh,
of with you. I don't, because you need to scan it,
Yeah, you need to
and
scan
then you
it.
need,
So
and then you need to verify your own identity. But yeah, you need to have the card to scan. So
interesting.
basically, you can't just create a digital ID.
I wonder how
Um,
this interacts with fake IDs.
well, that's a
yeah,
good point
I don't know.
because the barcode on the back of an ID is what's called a PDFA barcode. It's a form of QR code, kind of.
Don't got
Um,
barcodes on your IDs?
yeah, it's technically
Yeah.
it's like a
Oh, look
barcode.
at that. I never noticed that.
And you
Have you
can,
never had to? Have you never had your ID scanned?
No, I'm in a different state. They just punch it in manually.
huh?
I
Weird,
got an out-of-state ID. They've never like scanned it.
huh?
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I got it scanned at a grocery store like recently when I was buying like grocery or like, well, I guess not groceries. It was seltzers. They're
Illinois
groceries.
or Indiana?
It was Indiana. It was
And they
Indiana.
scan yours?
Yeah, I was shocked. I've
I don't
never
know.
seen a store take my ID and swipe it across the scan
Oh, they don't.
nodule.
I thought it was a barcode. I don't know. The
No,
point is, no one's done
Yeah,
that to me.
it is a
it has
barcode.
a barcode, but it holds information on it that more information than a
Yeah.
barcode. So, but yeah, hey,
Regardless,
It tells your
regardless,
blood type.
yeah,
yeah,
I don't
that's
even know
usually
what
for
blood.
medical purposes, so that if you get in a bad accident, they can transfuse the right blood to you.
I don't
right.
think this is right because well, for starters, I don't even know my blood type, so I couldn't have told them. But I don't know what RH factor
Well,
is,
it
but I'm
might
pretty
be.
sure that's not a blood
Oh,
type.
it's no. RH factor is like subtype in blood types because
Ah,
there's a
Yeah,
very.
so this is
R,
basically a template for where information would go if I had it.
wow, I actually learned something from watching Ancient Aliens. Look at that.
nice. And on that
But
note,
no. Hold on. I'm not done.
okay.
I
Jeez.
do wonder if, like, for example, siblings will use this to try and, like, if say an older sibling doesn't want to
Oh,
have their digital ID,
or
put it on
twins.
their young. Yeah. Well, twins it doesn't matter because
Oh,
they're going to be
true.
of age at the same time.
They'll
But
be
like
able
for
to do it
example,
anyway.
yeah. I'm curious though if like an older brother or something who doesn't want their ID digital would just put it on their younger sibling's phone and then have that to do illegal things with, like
Right.
the
I mean,
purchase
this is
of tobacco or
specifically,
alcohol.
I mean, this is specifically for the purpose of TSA. I can't imagine, I
Oh, is
really
that all
can't
it's supposed to be
imagine
used for? It's not in like grocery stores and
I'm
stuff?
sure it's for other applications, but that's the one they talk about in
it.
this article.
Yeah, so like for example, trying to put in a fake. First of all, I don't think that they would be able to get a fake in, and if they
Oh no, I
did,
didn't
you
say a
do still have
fake.
to.
No,
You
you're
did start.
saying
One of you started talking about a
you're
I
fake.
said
saying.
older sibling. I did bring up fakes.
Hmm.
I said I
Yeah,
wonder how that works out.
yeah, and I'm responding to that. I don't think that would
Sure.
necessarily go through.
Probably
Not
not.
only do you have to have. I mean, yes, there are way better methods to test whether an ID is legitimate or not in person versus in a picture. But I'm sure there's telltale signs that they can figure out with photo ID, not just with a picture of the photo ID.
Yeah.
Not just that, I'm sure they were able to actually scan the barcode on the back to try and prove that. And at that point, if you're using a fake ID and it works, congratulations, you've gamed the system.
Oh no,
You are now a criminal, and if you get caught, you're screwed.
I
Like
wasn't thinking people would use
screwed.
that for. I wasn't thinking people would use it for TSA. I was figuring people would use it for like the purchase of tobacco and alcohol.
Yeah, no, and to that point, I guarantee you there is going to be a moratorium on digital IDs in liquor stores, in places
Wouldn't
that sell
surprise me.
booze, and in bars and clubs. There's no way that they
Yeah,
would allow a
and
fake
smoke
ID
shops
because
now too, because you have to be, I think, 21 in a lot of places now to buy nicotine.
I'm pretty
True.
sure it's a national thing.
Yeah, I think that
True.
just didn't that change in
At
the
least
last 2
in the United
years?
States, it's a national thing.
I'm an old man,
Um,
so I don't remember anymore,
Right.
but didn't
but
affect
yeah,
me.
I don't think they're going to put a moratorium on that because how are they going to train? You can't train people to be working door or working, at a bar or at a liquor store to snuff out fake digital IDs. At that point, maybe they put some sort of like, I can see the only thing I can see in regard to a fake digital ID would be actually creating a counterfeit digital ID.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some sort of way, like in Ventra, for example, in the Ventra app in Chicago, they got really smart pretty quickly because they realized that people were able to basically copy the code and copy the graphics that show on your ticket on your pass. It's a digital. I mean, it's basically a screen, and there's all kinds of moving trains and people, and I think they change colors sometimes.
Yep.
And there are trains that go at like different speeds. So they've really figured out how to get people from like gaming the system, and even still, they can catch people pretty easily. I think you have to like do something. They make people tap the screen, and if you tap screen, it does change.
It changed
a
to
lot of different colors on
it
the screen.
changes to something else. So like there's
Yeah,
there's two
so-
different
so-
systems.
Yeah. So my point being, kind of like how you have like foils on standard issue government IDs, and in the Venture app they do sort of like a digital version of that. I can only imagine there's going to be something similar to that, maybe like a special like shine or like an actual holograph or something, some way that you're not able to just digitally create a fake ID.
Oh yeah.
Good point. Good point.
I'm just curious in the like interim period while the bugs get ironed out. That's the part I'm interested to
Yep,
see.
and people figure it out and how that kind of works. Like it's a little different from like a student ID per se because your student ID can let you into buildings and stuff like that. And we talked about that being on Apple Watch and iPhones and stuff like that. But this is literally the government ID. This allows you to do
Yeah.
things through the government. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they implement this and whether this is going to be a rocky start. So
Yeah, I guess my biggest question is, if this truly does get mainstream and it works or whatever, are they going to do what bars do, where they ask you for a second form of verification of ID?
who
That makes
knows?
sense.
Yeah, I mean, I
to
would.
that point, it defeats the purpose of a digital ID.
Oh, yeah. I forgot places do that.
But yeah, like how else are you going to verify that this person's legit if you don't have, like we said, a robust digital ID verification system and an app?
Right.
Well, I guess it'd be in wallet, but I mean, really, really secure, really just different and really unique to make sure that you really can't replicate it
Right.
or come close.
There you go. Well, in the interest of time, we're going to move over to our next article here. These next two should be relatively quick here, hopefully. Our next article here, we have Apple losing one of their chief special projects coordinator here, who was supposedly the head of the car special project. Doug Field moved over to Ford, and he is joining as their what is it? It's said here.
I think he's in their electric car space
Yeah,
stuff, no?
there was he will become Ford's chief advanced technology and embedded systems officer, reporting to the CEO. Basically putting him in charge of all the electric driving, electric cars, self-driving, all of those cool projects. But this is interesting because he is kind of the special projects lead at Apple, and he's kind of jumping ship. And in June, Bloomberg reported 3 other executives kind of jumped ship from his team as well. So does that signal the end of the Apple Car project?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. This happens all the time. You have a very special project for some company, and then during the process, people leave and they move, or they go elsewhere. So people came and went to Apple. Now they're going to Ford. I mean, I don't see this as a end of the project. To that end, I still I still can't imagine Apple delivering a vehicle, a car.
I know, right?
Right.
I would like to think they would start a little smaller with like an electric scooter, an e-bike maybe, or maybe like a dune buggy type thing, or some sort of like ATV or something to compete with what Tesla unveiled with their Cybertruck, that ATV. It just seems, and I'm not trying to put Apple in a box here, but they're a consumer electronics company. They're not a car company. I don't really. They have connections in the car space, but they have connections in the car space to license them their software, or to
Right.
license them the ability to use their software. An Apple car just doesn't really make sense to me. If they want to do anything, I would like them to do more with software. Actually, I would much prefer them to build out CarPlay and work with Android Auto to try and get some sort of more robust package that they could sell to car companies. One thing I've noticed with cars over my expert 23 years on this beautiful planet is the software on it sucks. The maps are usually terrible. They're not typically updated. And if they do get updates, you typically have to do them manually or go to the dealership. Tesla's broken this mold in this sort of way. But again, they're really more of a software company than they are a car company. I would love them to build it out, CarPlay out more, and then to license it out as a full car entertainment and just system. I don't think they should be going into this car business. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of car companies at this point, they'd be better off just slapping like Android Auto or CarPlay in there, because
Right.
Yeah.
usually their UI is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Like it's usually very poorly designed.
Or
There's usually-
even just stock Android or stock iOS or some sort of software itself. Hey, hear me out. Hear me out.
No, I just mean for the media stuff.
Hear me out. Yes, I agree with you on that. But just in general, like Teslas have their own operating system. Basically, the
Sure.
car is designed around a piece of software. I think that as we get into more technologically advanced cars and stuff like that, you should have a car that is more interconnected with the media or the infotainment system rather than you have all of your buttons and dials and stuff like that. Not to say that those aren't good to have, and I will die on a hill that mechanical dials and all that stuff are better in cars.
Amen, brother.
But
Amen.
but even if you get that integrated with a very holistic software solution, even if it is provided by somebody like Apple, I think that that would be a much better user experience than it would be for all of these janky 10-year-old interface systems. So,
I
yeah,
mean, I think I agree with you. I think we agree, but I think we disagree. There's CarPlay was made for cars.
correct.
It was not. Yet in a way it is a version of iOS, but it's not iOS. The design language, the way the buttons are sized, the way they have it laid out is specifically for a car. Putting iOS in there would be going backwards. What they should do, and what I would rather see Apple do, is go more of a holistic approach with a full OS that goes further than CarPlay, that also integrates and can directly compete with, I guess not integrates, but can directly compete with Tesla's autopilot. And in
Good
turn,
point.
they can license this entire system. It's not just the infotainment. It's not just, the settings. It's also the autonomous, vehicle portion of it.
Oh,
But they don't
okay.
need to provide the hardware necessarily. They can give recommendations on the type of sensors to use or cameras, but they don't need to deliver a hardware solution. I think that's what they should be doing. In fact,
Interesting.
I
It
think
gets
that's
weird
I think it's
quickly.
likely that what they could be doing. And they've been working on this project for a while, but whenever you see pictures, it's just a random car with all kinds of sensors on it. The last year and a half has been rough for everyone. So who knows if we've missed things or they're just really damn good at hiding things from us. Although I wouldn't say that's the case, just because the iPhone that should be coming out soon has likely been leaked since probably January or February or March. That being said, if they really do have a car that's coming, it may not be a shock, but whatever it is going to be, because it's, I suppose, been kept under pretty tight lips. But to reiterate my point, they should be more focused on software. They're a
Okay.
consumer electronics company and a software company, and a services company. Actually, this would be a phenomenal addition to their services side of the business. They have their consumer services, and they have the services that they license out exclusively to car dealers. I think this is a perfect solution, and this only furthers their sort of trajectory on their services side of the business.
Interesting.
To kind of bring it back to the original story, we've wandered a little bit, but they probably did take a pretty hard hit, I think, losing their chief. He was in charge of the project, wasn't he?
He was in charge of
'Cause
all their
that's-
special
He was the
projects.
VP of the Special
Oh, okay.
Projects Division.
Oh, okay. I thought he was like the head of the team for the car.
I think
That would have been
no,
a lot
he was
steeper
the
loss.
he's the head of the team that controls the car project and any of the other special projects that Apple does.
Yeah.
So
Which is a hit.
that
But
guy's
like,
boss.
if, for example,
Yeah.
the team lead on the car left, that would have
okay.
been a much harder hit to that car.
Yeah,
Good point.
This is definitely an inconvenience, probably not the end of the world.
no.
Right.
I still have trouble believing that they're really, really committed to this car thing, or if it's an idea that they've just been fleshing out, and if they think there's potential, they might continue it on. I from the very beginning, I wasn't sure that they actually wanted to follow through with this, like, because it's really stepping into a market they have not experience in, not any.
True. True.
But who knows? Maybe, the project will reveal potential and they might bring a car out one day. I don't know.
I mean, oh, go ahead.
No, as far as everything else goes that you were saying though, like, I'm fine with CarPlay where it is right now, where it's in charge of like your maps, your media, and all that good stuff. Integrating it into the rest of the car is a chore and a half, because then you have to integrate into a new communication system. I think they usually use something called CAN bus in cars and a lot of industrial things. It becomes a lot of weird integration things. You have to be able to play with whatever that company's sensors are going to be. And I think trying to get a totality like solution for cars from Apple that'll apply to like every different company's cars, it's pretty ambitious.
Right. Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
But I think it's a lot less ambitious though than delivering, the full solution, right? All four
Yeah.
wheels, the steering wheel.
Yeah. If you literally just put them like, hey, can you guys like set up a generic UI for our car settings, and then like some other stuff, like obviously manage the radio and all that stuff, that makes perfect sense to me. Like, just leave them there, and that might, balance those two little fields a little better.
There you go.
Yeah, it's got to be its own thing. It can't.
Yeah.
It can be derivative of iOS and CarPlay, but it cannot be the exact same thing.
Yeah, sure.
It has to offer more. It has to service more, not just functionality wise, but as you said, all kinds of cars, right? I don't think that it would be too terrible or too outlandish of an idea, just as we see Apple and all kinds of other companies creating all sorts of standards, Qi standard. The IoT standard they're trying to create to try and make things more universal. I can see that happening with car sensors and sensing technology for cars in order for this software to work. And likewise, by the way, I want to see this with Android as well. I want there to be options,
Obviously.
and I want there to be competition, because competition only makes things better for the
True.
consumer.
True. Well, speaking of competition, there's going to be a fair bit more competition in the phone market coming up because the iPhone 13 is expected to launch September 14th, which isn't that next Tuesday? Yeah, that is
Yep.
that is next Tuesday. Along with a couple of other products, people are really hoping that the Apple Watch Series 7 is going to release, as well as the M1X chip that Apple is supposedly have been working on for a while. So we're definitely going to have to stay tuned to see what comes out of this.
I'm pretty sure they already had the M1X
Let
No.
me.
out.
I don't believe so.
It's not.
Apple's expected to announce next generation of its homemade chip, rumored to be called the M1X.
Maybe I'm wrong. I
But-
guess I'm wrong.
Call it the
I thought it
M2.
was for more devices because they're still slowly getting out the M1 chip to all of their other devices. I
Or
guess I'm
maybe
Right.
thinking of. I was thinking of the iPad because they just put the
There you
M1 on
go.
the iPad,
Yeah.
but and typically they would put an X iteration of their their phone chip in there.
Right.
That's what I was thinking. So that's my
Okay.
my apologies.
Yeah, no worries. But either
But
way, stick around to Tech Talk Nation here. We actually were talking about this before the episode today. We want to do a Tuesday episode next week, so we will make sure to cover all of the juicy details from this press release by Apple and hopefully a new iPhone. So we will tune in to our resident Apple expert here, Mr.
I don't
Matt
even know if it's
Grislow.
hopefully. I
Uh,
think it's just a given.
Well,
Fair.
don't forget, this is also the final, I guess, announcement and showcase for iOS 15 and how it'll integrate not just with the current phones, but the newest phones and what sort of technology and sort of software they're able to leverage to do new things on these phones.
Right.
To that end, I think this could, again, potentially be another opportunity for Apple to prove that the CSAM thing is worth it. And that gives them a platform to do it. And I say that because it's going to be a fully like record. I don't know if it's streamed or it's pre-recorded. Either way, they don't have, I guess, like a live audience or whatever. So in that regard, they can just keep going. No one's going to interrupt them. If there's some sort of, I guess, problem people have with something, you're not going to hear jeers or boos or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So look out for what iOS 15, or rather, look out for how iOS 15 is going to initially roll out. It's not going to have SharePlay on it. It's not going to have the CSAM stuff initially on it. And I think there's one or two other features that they will also not be rolling out at the start with it.
I wonder if it's
So
going to just play like an extended commercial.
it sort of has.
I mean,
been
yeah,
the last
kind of.
few. But I will
bit.
say they've really proven, and I'm not surprised with a company the size and with the budget and wallet of Apple. They've proven their production quality on
Oh, of course.
content is unbelievable. I have no doubt in my mind that it's partially due to their Apple TV Plus like studio, where they can, I'm sure, pull people from those shows to help with their own internal things in videos, graphics and things like that. They do a phenomenal job anyway every year with their beautiful renderings. I mean, they really are lifelike. But I can only imagine that they're pulling resources from like Apple TV Plus and their partners there to help them produce these things. So they're really well
I
done.
mean, sure. Their marketing though has been on point since like all the way back even in like 1984.
Yeah.
Where like you can see that iconic 1984 Apple commercial. Like their marketing has pretty much never been like bad.
True.
Pretty much always been good. I'm looking at their camera right now. That's something that I'm going to be curious about because I'm expecting something crazy, I guess, from Google's next camera iteration with their like that one's going to be one of their things with a custom basically like machine learning and AI core to process images,
Mhm.
and like they have had the same sensor since I think the Pixel 2. It's been
Wow.
that same sensor in all of their phones, even their flagships, and the pictures look just as good as like a Samsung, as an iPhone. Like it looks just as good. So I'm wondering if they're going to try and put extra work into their camera or not to try and compete with that, or if I mean they are. It really is like they don't have to. It's not like they have to unseat anybody. Like their cameras already are great. So
Right.
I
Well,
either way,
I
I'm just curious.
I can't tell you how elated I would be if they were really able to compete with Google's camera
Yeah,
code. I mean, it's
we
really
gotta
not the
see
hardware,
too.
as you said. It's the software.
Yeah,
mhm.
I would. So I'm still rocking an iPhone 8.
sure.
This phone, as of this month, is a 4-year-old device. Personally, I've owned this for 3.5 years, but this device was designed and manufactured 4 years ago. It has technology that does not exist anymore. It has features that are no longer on any iPhone.
Buttons.
Um, it's got a chin and a
Got a
chin and
home button.
a forehead. Not to mention this ancient thing they call a home button and Touch ID. One of my favorite things in the world. My biggest holdout.
Oh, I forgot iPhones don't have fingerprint scanners
Oh,
anymore.
that's
my
right.
biggest my biggest holdout for getting a brand new phone, and I'm a tech person. You know this, Fitz, or probably a little more so than you, Ryan, but you know this too. I'm a big tech guy. I like new technology. I like to see what's out there, and I like to experience it. At the same time, I've gotten to the point sometime in college where I realized that it's not just about the new stuff and it's new and shiny and you have to have it. It's more of a personal investment. And so I have been holding out on some sort of new phone unlocking system. I personally hate Face ID. This phone
Yeah,
was the
it's
last
annoying.
phone, one of the last phones in the main line. The SE has come out since an SE2 that still has the home button. But this is the last flag or mainline phone in the iPhone line that they sold with Touch ID. At the same time, they came out with the iPhone 10, which was the first phone to come out with Face ID. And they've stuck with that since, and every one of their products has it. Almost just about every one of their products has at least the iPad and the iPhone. They did just put Touch ID in the power button in the iPad Air, which gave me a really false sense of hope for the iPhone that they'll put it in the iPhone. I think it's a perfect solution for it.
Yeah.
We'll
But
see.
I'm specifically holding out on some sort of fingerprint ID. I really do not like Face ID. I think it's too slow. I think, if anything, the last year and a half has only proven that this button is superior, far superior than the Face ID because of us all being masked up. You know, I like that so much more. That to me, that's worth more than an updated processor. It's worth more than updated cameras. It's worth more than better screen technology. I swapped my battery
Yeah.
out in March or April. It's at 93% the capacity now, which is a little wild. But the processor is still going as great as it has before with all the software updates I've had since whatever came on it, 12 maybe. So I'm not upgrading until Apple gives me
Gotta check
a damn good reason. Um, Again, I'm really hard set on this, this unlocking thing. But I said I wouldn't do it for the camera. But if they could rival Google Pixel and that camera technology, that would make me consider switching.
Interesting. Definitely.
Yeah.
It would make me consider upgrading.
Do you remember what kind of fingerprint scanner is on the iPhones?
What kind?
Yeah, if it was like optical or something else.
I thought it
Um,
was capacitive, maybe.
It could be.
well, it's a capacitive touch button. they ended up not even being physical buttons now. So like if my phone gets turned off
that's
or
fine.
dies for a day, which it did this week, shout out to the Apple employee who wiped my phone without telling me she was going to wipe my phone. Thank God I'm an iCloud enthusiast, because I would have lost everything. So shout out to her. But yeah, it's a capacitive touch button. I think they're moving towards it on some of the phones or iPads for the volume rockers. And I think that's like a rumor that they're going to be doing that for like volume rockers. They need a physical button in order to reset things. I don't know how you're going to be able to do any sort of reset
Okay.
if it's through software and you
So I
can't
think
physically interact with the device. But
I think their scanner is even capacitive as well.
Yeah, it says
Yeah. Because a lot of other companies use optical.
Yeah.
And
actually it says
that lets you embed it underneath the screen though,
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't even have to put it anywhere else. You can just put your thumb on the screen and it works.
I got one underneath the screen here. See, yeah, it's really
he hides
cool.
his notifications. Yeah.
But
So
but I agree with you that like putting it on the power button on the side, I love that solution. There's other phones that have used it. My tablet uses it. The other option is you'd be surprised how nice having a fingerprint scanner on the back is. I know you just tap it with your index, right? And
that's
it's also
it's unergonomic to how I hold a phone though. I hold my phone
Yeah.
kind of like this.
you don't hold your phone like this.
Fitz's phone is an
No,
example.
I actually hold it like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, both hold your phones though.
Psychopaths.
Both hold up your phones.
I
want
hold
to make
my
a
phone
point, though.
like this.
I hold it
so I
like
can just
this.
go like that.
Yeah, I hold it like
The
this
camera
with the finger
is
underneath.
right above the fingerprint sensor.
Yeah,
Right
so
We
above
don't have
this.
fingerprints. We don't have fingerprints.
If you're not looking, you could very easily smudge a sensor. I'm not saying it's a big deal. You
What
can
I'm
always clean
saying,
it off.
yeah. But
But
phones that do that, they always put the camera like in one of the corners.
right.
The point I was gonna make though is like you can put it on the back, and that's a solution, and it also lets you, like, you can scroll and you can actually interact with that on the back as well. That's something people have done in the past.
Yeah.
I don't really need that capability.
Power buttons. Yeah, power button. Let's be honest, that's probably the best place to hide it.
It's one of the most ergonomic things. I mean, seriously, when you grab your phone.
Yeah. You have to do that. Turn it on and you double tap the display, depending on
Like,
who
oh
you
my
are,
God,
but
this is so nice. I love this.
literally all they'd have to do is, I don't know what the bezels right now look on an iPhone. I think they flattened out on the
They're
recent
flat.
ones.
Yep.
Okay,
They're like
so
the
they
iPads.
wouldn't even have to change that much now then.
No.
They'd just have to make it a little bigger and then slap a thing in there.
I don't know what the size is on the iPad Airs, but depending on how
Doesn't
big
have
it
to
is,
be
they
massive.
probably would make it smaller to fit the phone.
Mine's relatively tiny. Oh God, you can kind of see it above the pen there.
You have an iPad?
No, that's not an iPad.
I was gonna say I didn't think you did.
No. This is a
Again,
Samsung.
all they have to do is miniaturize the technology. That's it. That's all they gotta do. They have it. They have not only do they have it, they have it configured in the software. All they have to do is figure out how to make it a little smaller, the internal portions of it, so
I
it
honestly
fits
think it is
in
just
this size,
faster.
this form
It is
factor.
faster and better, just flat.
Right.
It is. In fact, I mean, and this isn't. I'll end with this.
Okay.
This is not like a novel idea of mine.
No.
I don't really know why they can't go for both. Why not?
It's not even a novel idea because they put it in their own products.
No, they don't have a single device that has both Face ID and Touch ID. Well, no, that's not true.
The iPad
they do
does
have
now,
it.
doesn't it?
Is there Face ID in the iPad Airs?
I
Maybe
know.
not in the Airs, no.
I don't know actually. I think you
Because
could.
it's the only remaining Apple product that has Touch ID.
Macs have Touch ID now too. So
it is true, but I don't think they have Face ID.
I don't think so.
Do they?
I haven't set it up if it does.
I could.
So
I know. I got to imagine the Pro does if it has that thing that'll track your face when you're like moving around.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it has Face ID.
Hey,
that technology is for that's just AR. That's a different sensor. Or I'm sorry, that's not AR. That's LiDAR.
Yeah.
And that's on the other side. I actually have it on my iPad. I have the 2nd gen iPad Pro,
weird.
the 11-inch. It's now dated. They've come out with a new one with the M1 chip in it. I want to find
don't
this out
know
for
if-
myself, but
Supposedly the M1 chip isn't too much better anyway, but at least for
mm,
iPad purposes.
it's not that it's not better. The problem is
For
Apple.
iPad purposes.
No, it's not even that. It's that they basically put like thinking of like a example, like a super crazy engine in like a Prius. And then they limited how good
Yeah,
it could
exactly.
go, or how high, of
Yeah.
a ceiling
I think
of output that engine could go. That's exactly what they did to the iPad. They didn't give it the
Yeah.
features that could use it, and they're barely scratching the surface of that processor. They did not do it any favors, and that's probably one of my biggest criticisms of Apple right now. They
Yeah,
put
that's
this
why-
Mondo Wild chip in here, and they're not even coming close to using its capabilities. I think they even limited the amount of RAM it can use.
Yeah.
Well, it's a system on a chip, so it's all self-contained, depending on the chip that you have,
Sure.
obviously. But
part of it, I think,
um,
or part of it I know rather, is just how iOS interacts with how it handles tasks and how their new version of Mac OS handles tasks.
true.
And
By the
so
way,
there's a
the
lot
answer.
of like design.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
The answer is no. The iPad Air does not have Face ID.
Hmm.
It exclusively has Touch ID. I don't know if that sensor was just too much to put in the iPad. My iPad has it, but I don't even have it turned on. That's how much I hate it.
Oh,
I
man.
do not have it turned on. I hate it.
What if Google takes away the fingerprint sensor? Oh no.
That's also a possibility.
That's a
too.
horrible thought. Oh no.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm a big biometric,
Yeah.
authenticator fan. I'm
We
a
are
stan, I
swinging
guess, of
into
it.
that part of the year though, that like September to like November, where just everything releases.
Yep.
Yeah.
There
So
we
it should be a
go.
fun time.
Definitely. You know what also is a fun time? Going shopping. Amazon is releasing their cashierless technology to Whole Foods. I'm not sure if you guys have ever done this before, but if you go to an Amazon Go store, you just literally scan in with a QR code to their store, go up to a shelf, pick out what you want, and then you just literally walk out. And then you get a receipt for it later. And they're bringing that to Whole Foods. One store in California is kind of their pilot test for it, and kind of moving away from the cashier as opposed to the people who just scan stuff all day. They did mention that the Whole Food stores will have comparable, in quotes, number of team members to similar size store, but they'll spend their time differently because they're not being a cashier now. They're just stocking shelves or keeping the store clean or whatever. So yeah, it's
That might just be to abate some panic.
true, very true. But also, if you haven't tried one of these like cashierless shopping things, it's creepy. It's creepy, and it's interesting, but it's like super creepy because there's just like one person in the store that you don't even interact with, just kind of like stocking shelves, and then you just walk out with stuff, and it feels like you're robbing the place. It's really weird. Like, yeah,
I don't know if this is a hot take or if this is just what I think is a natural progression of things. I think it's a natural progression in two ways. One, Amazon's rolled out this technology with their own like stores,
right.
their own grocery stores. So why wouldn't they do it with the store they own?
Yeah.
That's one sort of natural progression of this implementation of touchless, contactless, no people to check you out sort of payment system. The other way I see this going, or the only reason I see this going the way it is because of the work shortage right now. I mean,
Oh,
there
true.
are so
I was
many
thinking that
companies
too.
that are struggling to hire that can't, and the most logical way to solve that is to remove the volatile workforce.
Yeah, that's been a huge what do you call it? Unintended consequence probably of all
Automation.
like well, yeah, of all this like expanded unemployment and then uh I don't even know what the word is. Corona bucks, corona checks. You understand what I'm
The
You understand what I'm
the
trying to say
stimmies.
though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, you
Well, no.
even said, one of you said the point of one person stocking the shelf. They have robots that stock
Oh
the
yeah.
warehouses. I'm surprised they don't even already have those in the stores.
That
But
you
yeah,
know
to
of.
finish my point, yeah.
I mean, I've never been in one of those stores. To
Mhm.
be fully transparent, I have not.
I've
To
I think
been.
finish
it's
my point,
interesting, but sorry, I didn't realize I was.
before we go too far off, I do want to finish the point.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was interrupting. Go ahead.
The unintended consequence of all that might be just a rapid progression in automation technology to try and make up for the dearth of workers,
Yeah.
That's a really good point because on the
the
news
lack of
today,
workers.
I did see a story about a restaurant that just replaced their entire wait staff with robots because they just couldn't get anybody to apply.
Yeah,
Like they had no choice because and their entire argument was they weren't replacing jobs because the jobs were never
they couldn't
filled.
fill them.
Right. So
Yeah. I think it's perfectly understandable as a natural progression of things, not just in terms of the way that the world seemingly is going, but the way that the world is operated in the last year and a half. People don't want to
Sure.
work for whatever
mhm.
reason. Fine. That's going to be hurting a
Yeah,
lot of businesses. So they're going to be taking every opportunity they can to either pivot or to try and fill that gap. And the best way is it's going to be a high upfront cost for the technology that pays itself off over time
Right.
when you're no longer
oh yeah,
paying worker salaries and pensions and, you know, insurance if you're getting that.
yeah. Like I
Right.
said, I think it accelerated it a lot, and plus, like looking at or just like kind of taking a step back and looking around the world, I think England wants to lock down again. There's places in Australia that are like locking down their streets and like executing puppies to prevent people from leaving their houses. Yeah, no, that's a real story in Australia. I
Oh,
know. Yeah, Australia is a little wild right now, but
Well, didn't they just lock down because they had one case?
that was
basically,
that
yeah.
was
Was it,
New
well, was it
Zealand.
Australia or was
That
it New
was in
Zealand?
New Zealand.
New Zealand might be one case. Australia might have been specifically a place called New South Wales, I think.
Okay.
I think that's where an animal shelter to prevent people from trying to like leave their homes and adopt puppies executed the puppies.
That's awful. That is
Yeah,
genuinely awful.
That's
yeah.
terrible.
Aust- Australia, like that kind of place is kind of crazy a little bit in a lot of ways, it seems to me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it's definitely seems like it's accelerating this because then if a business can't operate again, well, you know, now I don't have to lay people off. I don't have to fire people. I can just try and maintain my place and then fire it right back up. And I don't have that lead in time of getting people to work again. I just have all my stuff ready already.
Right.
You're
Right.
just
Right.
pumping up product.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I mean, it probably shouldn't be that way, obviously, but this has been an unintended consequence of just accelerating this kind of thought process for businesses.
At that point,
Definitely.
your only other extra cost is your maintenance cost
Yeah.
for an upkeep.
Yeah, and whatever electricity you have to charge the bots, basically,
Sure.
or run whatever systems. So that is crazy.
I don't know, man. I'm thinking McDonald's goes with gas powered robots.
I mean, yeah, I just can inhale the
Imagine
diesel as soon as you get in there.
As
they
soon as I order my
repurposed
McDouble, I get a big whiff of
they repurposed their
diesel.
grease to burn to run their generators.
Alternative
Why-
sources
why-
of
I'll get
fuel
on
are
this.
not a bad idea.
Why,
I'll
why
get on this.
why do I see this being like a lot, like I know this has been suggested at one point in some McDonald's meeting somewhere. So listen, we burn the oil that we use in the fryer. Like I'm sure that has happened somewhere. But
It's
Imagine your
probably
car
regular.
smelling like McDonald's French fries as it
I think there
drives
was
down the road.
I think there was genuinely someone who designed a car to run off like fast food grease.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely a thing. But
Yeah,
uh
cool stuff.
yeah, it's definitely cool stuff. You know what else is kind of interesting that may have gotten brought up in a meeting? Teleportation. And that's today's main feature article.
You
Um,
tell
it's
burger
a very
into their mouth.
yes, it's a very sensationalized article that we have for you here, but in a way, it kind of is teleportation. So we're going to go, Ryan and I are probably going to go into this a little more because I'm not sure how familiar Grislow is with quantum computing, but it's a very interesting subject. And I think we can get a pretty decent discussion real quickly on this. So the article is about AMD filing a teleportation patent to supercharge quantum computing. This is a little bit misleading. It's not for people. So unfortunately, but basically, what this is saying is
I'll get
instead,
into the metaphysics later.
yes, instead of having all of the computing working in sequential order, so like A, B, C, D, E, basically what you could do is you could connect like A to D and run those like at the same time, and then connect C to E, run those at the same time, and basically switch up the order in which you do your computations so it's not dependent on the previous result. So it's a really interesting
Yeah,
patent here, and basically what they're saying is they're using the quantum physics and the quantum technology within the computer to be able to actually change the way that the processing takes place as a whole. So,
yeah. And it's interesting actually that that's kind of a concept they use in basic computers for just addition.
right.
Like that's how they do I think it's called a full adder. Instead of like carrying a one when you do addition normally, there's a way to do it all at once in one step. And that's what they use. And it's kind of like it's not a perfect metaphor. This isn't a one-to-one mapping, but it's kind of like that in that instead of having to keep carrying the one to go to the next computation, you're connecting to the next one
Yeah, you're just
or to
flowing
a different
straight
part
into it.
altogether.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right, rather than
Yeah.
storing
Quantum
that
computing is
number and pulling
wild.
it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy, and definitely one of those things where the more and more I read into quantum computing, the more I'm interested, and the more I don't understand. Uh, so
Yeah,
That means you're being honest with yourself.
yeah, like honestly,
yeah.
the more I don't understand how the heck it works, like I mean, the big thing with quantum computing is you have a our traditional computers just give you ones and zeros, beeps and boops. But basically, what a quantum computer can do is instead be like, hey, that's not a one, that's not a zero, that's a point 0.6 or a point 0.4 or a 0.35. Like it's completely fundamentally changing the way that computation happens, and um, it's 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 interesting. And as we're doing research into this, we really don't have any super current applicable uses for quantum computing as it stands right now. But we do know what's going on, what it could be used for, and how we basically have to develop the technology to remove the literal
Yeah.
physical atom limitations to make it affordable and reachable for the normal
Yeah.
average Joe.
I mean, part of it too is like you have to rewrite programming altogether. You have to completely reinvent everything in order to deal with this a completely like new state to add on to your machine.
Right.
Like
To
that
me,
is a foundational shift.
Hmm.
to me, and I'm sure everyone could tell this is a little over my head, but the best comparison I can make is it sounds like instead of essentially discrete computation, it's like transient computation,
Yeah, honestly.
which is Yeah, I mean, I understand that from a fundamental, double E standpoint. And to me, that not only is that where the majority of just like life happens in the transient, and electronics and physics, um, it's there's a limit to a definite, a one and a zero. Um, if you can have in between values and continuously manipulate those for computational analysis or whatever, code, whatever, um, that is fundamentally amazing.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
completely. I don't know what to say
Yeah, a
without.
lot of this is tied up in like quantum theory and stuff. So it gets weird to think about having like your kind of simultaneous like one and zero, and how like you can use quantum mechanics to tie atoms together across like infinite distance. It's quantum mechanics is weird.
Yes, and
Oh yeah,
I understand less and less. So
Oh, that's
there you
fine. What
go.
is it? I think it's the guy who discovered quantum mechanics supposedly said, Richard Feynman, anyone who claims to understand quantum theory is either lying or crazy.
True.
you're not wrong.
A
Very
nice
true.
quote.
Very true.
Can
Well,
we talk about teleportation now?
I mean, I know
D-
Grislow has to
because
head
do you
out,
do
but
you
go
die?
ahead.
Do you die when you teleport?
What?
It's
Just
science.
think of it.
We're talking
Those
science
weren't the
fiction
same
right now.
atoms you were before, right? That's a whole different group of atoms, probably. For
The replicate.
teleportation to be instantaneous. And even
I
to
mean,
teleport, you have to completely disassemble and reassemble the atoms. So did you just
yeah,
die?
yeah, like the same type, the
Yeah.
same like structure, everything. It
Metaphysics is
is it
fun.
is it is not humanly possible to physically teleport yourself. There are limitations to the universe. I don't know, like us. Let's just say us in the what are we, twenty
I
first
mean,
century? Us. There are
yeah, no.
limitations. You
I don't
can't turn back
believe
the clock. You can't go back in time. You can go forward in time, I think. You can't go back. Um, or you
wait
can
till
be in like a stasis where it's relative,
ah,
right? It's relative. Like you're moving, time moves slower for you versus other people, but you can't quite go back or forward in time willy nilly. You can't.
sure.
You cannot. Dematerialize and rematerialize in two different locations having the same code,
Well,
like
let's
just
say you could
genetic code.
perfectly disassemble the exact atomic structure of everything and reassemble it on the other side almost instantaneously. Is that you? Did you just die and this is now not you and it's a different you?
Yeah,
Metaphysics
I
are fun.
I
Yeah.
mean, what
I
makes you
love
you though? I
metaphysics
mean,
so much.
I think
Exactly.
this actually does sort of harken back to our patent discussion on is an
It does.
AI or
It's a
what? How
metaphysics
can you?
question.
It's like a life question. Like what
Yeah.
makes you you? What makes you a human? I
Let
can't
me
remember
find
the
the
three
specific
criteria, but it was
definition for
like
this real quick,
you're
but
able to free think. You're able to have you have rights. To me,
yeah,
true
I am using the word
teleportation.
correctly.
To me, true teleportation would mean the same consciousness, the same internal you, not physically internal you, but your essence is the same. Maybe you have
Mm.
a physically slightly different body, but on the most part, it's the same. I don't, I mean, we're talking about technology that if we had that, we would have lightsabers. We would have real life, Star Trek.
Good.
Yeah.
It's too far fetched.
Right. Well,
I don't know about
luckily,
far-fetched, but far out of our reach. Also, I was using the word correctly. Metaphysics, the branch of philosophy that deals with first principles such as knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space.
Sure.
cool.
Metaphysics. There's your word of the day.
Metaphysic, nice. But in the sense of computers, though, in a way, this is teleportation in the sense of chaining these computations together,
Yeah.
where you're actually kind of teleporting down further down the processing queue, as opposed to literally like taking out and reassembling yourself somewhere else. But this is just
I just
very,
like
very, very,
metaphysics a lot.
very
It's fun.
tiny at like atom scale. So
It may,
Yeah, it's
maybe I'm
very
not reading.
strange.
right.
Maybe I'm reading into this wrong. It just seems too. I think, as you said, it's a sensational title, and I don't think they're
Yeah.
using the right terminology to properly describe what is physically happening.
Right.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah, they're
No,
But it
definitely
gets
it's
not.
not.
And what is physically happening is genuinely impossible to understand and very interesting.
Exactly.
I will say it's interesting. We're getting to the point where we're working on technology and science, and we're able to produce results that we don't fully understand. We've gotten to this point where
Oh,
we
yeah.
basically understood most things, how they work, why they work. We're now getting into this really strange territory of we're able to make things do stuff, but we're not necessarily sure how or why. It's kind of like a reversion, if that is the right word, back in time to where they just made stuff work and the math came later and the physics
No,
came
that's
later because
just
people just kind of figured it out later.
Mhm.
This is almost like a renaissance of that time, but take out the
it's just another
rudimentary sort
frontier.
of applications of what they were doing, insert technology in the 21st century.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's just another frontier. Like when we discovered radiation, we didn't know what we were doing with it. So many scientists died of radiation poisoning trying to figure out what radiation was.
True.
Granted, I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's dying from playing with qubits or anything, but
Qubits.
Qubits.
yeah,
Yeah.
qubits. Is it
Qubit.
cubits? Because that just sounds like the Mesopotamian measurement of length, a cubit,
I don't know.
which was like 3 arms lengths or something like that. Whereas I thought it was like quibit, like
Oh wait, hold up.
I
QUI.
thought
Arms lengths?
I've heard
Yeah, I don't remember how long a cubit is, man. Is it just like your elbow to your arm? Is that it?
qubit.
But that's just relative. That's not a measurement.
Yeah, I said Mesopotamian.
Just because it's a Mesopotamian doesn't mean they can't be advanced. But that I mean they are quite literally the cradle of civilization. Don't forget. That being said,
Yeah, it's
like
the length from the distance of your elbow to your middle finger. That's a cubit.
What?
this
Yeah.
here is different for me than for any of you, any
Yes.
viewer.
Don't forget this was also
It-
the Mesopotamians. Like, come on.
I mean, this is like qubits are in the Bible. They're in a lot of places.
But also
It's
we're
just
not
like
definitely not quantum computing qubits.
no. That's why I
But
think it's pronounced quibits, right?
qubit,
Isn't it quibit?
I don't know.
Is there an I in qubits? I don't think there is.
No, there is after the B.
Yeah, it's
Well, yeah, for
QUBIT.
Oh, this is just Q. Oh, I hate that.
Qubit? Qubit?
Ah,
What?
that is not how English works. That's not how any language works. QUBITS.
Yeah.
I guess that is Q bits instead of Q. You kind of have to like muddle your
Q.
Q.
Yeah.
Qubits.
Yep,
Q.
it is. Yes, it is.
It's instead
Oh,
of a hard
wait. I don't know if this will
it's
pick up, but
qubits. Oh,
Okay.
I hate this. It's a very subtle difference. I don't like this.
It's like a cube and then it. Like cube it.
But yeah,
yes.
that's all. That's the measurement for Mesopotamia, though.
Interesting.
Babylon, I think, used it too.
I
Well-
don't know. Are you sure it's spelled the same way though?
No, it's spelled with a C.
Okay, well,
There
It's
it is.
completely different spelling. It just sounds. It's a subtle difference because you have the hard C, qubit, and you have like kind of a Q that you have to muddle a bit and like qubit.
this is one of several examples of a ton of different words that
Sure.
are just basic variations of each other.
It
but mean
probably
completely
doesn't
different
matter.
things.
Right.
I don't think anyone uses
Well-
qubits anymore.
Kind of
There you
like
go.
here, you can hear. It's right here. You know,
Homophones.
Homophones? I don't know.
How's it
Tomato,
pronounced?
tomato. There you go.
Isn't it homophones like Homo sapien? As in like
I thought it was homophones.
homo meaning like.
Well,
Oh, it's homophone too.
anyway, now
Isn't
we're
homo
just
like
getting
a root word that means same.
we're gonna take this rambling into the post show after
Sorry.
after us. But
I like taking us off kilter to go talk about metaphysics and
No,
weird things.
no worries about that. But we are actually out of time today. Thank you guys so much for joining. Grislow, if you want to plug the social media real quickly, I'm not sure if you want to do that before we go, or if
Yep. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Instagram at Tech Talk Nation, Facebook at Tech Talk Nation Show, and Twitter at Tech Talk Nations. That's Tech Talk Nation with an S. You can also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get your podcast from, as well as YouTube. Please subscribe if you can. It helps us out. I guess it doesn't really help us out, but we want to see the channel grow, and we want to see some more engagement. So it would at least give us a little sense of accomplishment, see those numbers go up. But to that point, hit the bell, the notification bell, to make sure you don't miss out on an episode. Like we said, we're going to be trying to do a show next Tuesday. We were planning on doing a show this week on Monday, and it just kind of slipped through the cracks. We're still trying to figure out our schedule, so that's the best way for you guys to catch the show live. So don't forget to do that, and keep checking for any news and other content.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys once again for joining. Thank you to Grislow and Ryan for being here today. We are going to take the metaphysics discussion into our post show here and have a good old time with that. But thank you for joining us. Tune in next Tuesday for our Apple event spectacular to hopefully get a new iPhone launch and talk about hopefully a new processor. So thank you for tuning in and see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.